Welcome to another episode of our Creator Series, where we chat with creatives from all backgrounds to give you insights into their process. You'll get to hear about success, failure, words of wisdom, and in the end, gain a whole new appreciation for what goes on into the things that we enjoy every day. Today we're chatting with Lindsay Lleras, and she's a comic artist and writer hailing from the northwest suburbs of Chicago. She graduated from Columbia, the liberal arts school, not the law school, and currently also works as a production assistant on Disney Junior's Mickey and the Roadster Racers. She's also a self-published graphic novelist with her autobiographical book, Lindsay's a Christian Now. Currently, Lindsay's also working on a cartoon pitch Bible for an animated show called Dolphin Scouts. It's about nautical Girl Scouts who help keep their seaside town safe and clean for the people and the creatures who inhabit it. She also likes cats and comedy, and we do too. So we're super excited to chat with her today. Hi, Lindsay. Welcome to our show.
Now, I want to jump in just right away because I'm really excited about this. I'm really looking forward to get your insights on your current work and just your inspirations. So, I mean, for me, I'd love to know, what was your introduction into comics and graphic novels? Like, what impacted you so much to go, this is the medium I want to do?
Oh wow, I've never been asked that before. So as a kid, I read a lot of Garfield comics.
Oh yeah, I feel you on that.
Cats and comedy, there it is.
Oh my gosh, we found the origin. So I read a lot of Garfield, like the library in elementary school, and I'd always get a Garfield comic. And I think, so I started making my own little comics. I think I tried to include her, but it was more so like I just wanted to do it on my own. Because I would I would put her down as the writer, but I actually thought of it. Right? So she literally wrote it, physically wrote it. But I would just be like, yeah, so write this. And then I would draw. And then I would make my mom go to work and make copies and just so I could hand them off to my friends.
Using your resources, I like it. Very entrepreneurial of you.
So I think one of them was about oh shoot. I can't remember what it was called, but it was about fast food friends. One was a French fry and one was a cheeseburger. And I think they had to save Pop-Tart Polly.
Pop-Tart Polly. I love the alliteration.
They had to save Pop-Tart Polly from getting melted by a sausage.
Oh my.
Yeah, it was very dramatic. But yeah, I guess that's how I got into comics, and I just really enjoy drawing and storytelling.
That's awesome. I mean, that's a great medium to do it too. There's so much that you can tell because you not only have the written words, but you also have the visuals that can help fill in so much. And I've always been amazed by artists because just the little situations within such a small space, they can tell so much. I've always been impressed by that. And even Garfield too, you think well, it's simple, it's just a cat, right? But there's so much that's being told between Garfield and the dog, I think it was Odie, right? If I remember right.
Yeah.
And John, the owner, and stuff like that. And just moments of them at the television or fighting at the dining room table. And those things always really stand out, and it somehow made such a memorable impact on so many.
Yeah, have you seen the comic, or it's a Tumblr page, it's called Garfield minus Garfield?
No, never heard of that.
Oh my gosh, you have to check it out. So I guess I'm plugging that. It's not mine, but Garfield minus Garfield, and it's just Garfield comic strips with Garfield out. And it just makes John look like a complete crazy person. He's talking to nobody, and they get kind of sad. It's just John saying sad things and panels of nothing because Garfield's supposed to be there, but he's not. It's really great. Yeah, it's just so crazy how removal of a character can change the entire vibe of a comic strip.
Oh yeah, that's so true in the different contexts. I know people do that with film trailers too. for a horror movie, they'll put like comedic music tracks behind it, and all of a sudden it becomes a comedy instead of a horror and so forth.
How would you describe your drawing style? And why do you think that you gravitate towards that style over others? And last part of that question, do you think you are influenced by Garfield?
At first, I think I was a little bit, like, if I look back, I don't know, in like all my old doodle books, I had like what I called doodle books, just sketch books, but fieldish. But I watched a ton of SpongeBob, so influenced a lot by SpongeBob too. And then, so a lot of people do compare my art style to Adventure Time. Like, I started drawing that way because of a different comic that looked sort of like Adventure Time, and it's called Natalie D. It's like this lady, she draws just goofy comics on a random web page that she has, and I found it in like 6th grade.
Oh.
And so I gravitated toward that like really simplistic style, and then Adventure Time came along, and then I was like, oh, wow, that looks like my style. I'm not saying it stole my style, I'm just saying that, like, I think at that time, that's how a lot of people were drawing. It just kind of happened that way.
That makes sense. Well, you draw or you create based on the things you know, right? So if that's what you're familiar with, that's where you're going to start. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Now, out of curiosity too, so we've mentioned about the original OG process and the inspiration behind that process, or some of the inspirations behind that process. But what do you feel with your journey thus far has been one of your largest obstacles that you've had to work against when creating your work, including your most recent work being the Lindsay's a Christian Now?
Just like, I think time constraints and self-doubt are like the two biggest things. It's like, the reason I started that graphic novel was because it was a project for a graphic novels class I was taking in college in like 2014. And so I wrote like 18 pages of it. And then my teacher was like, oh yeah, you should do this. Like, as a real, like, you should expand on this. And cool idea. And I was like, well, I just don't know if I have the time. And then, like, little by little, I would do like chunks of it here, chunks there. And then until I got, finally where I wanted to be. And that was like 3 years later. Time. And then the self-doubt part, it's just like, does anybody actually want to read this? Like, it's about me. Or any art that I do, I'm just like, does anybody actually want to see this? Like, I'll think of something funny or something that I don't think is funny. like I think it's funny, but I think people aren't going to think funny as I. Does this make sense?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. People are going to think it's as funny as I think it is. So then I'm like, I don't know. See where, like, my most popular comics is when I don't think they're that funny. And then people are like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. And I'm like, I didn't think anybody would like this. So you gotta just shut it up. Like, don't let it talk you out of doing anything.
Well, I will say, I mean, at least you had a professor who was like, hey, you should probably do something with this, rather than like, hey, you should probably burn this.
Oh, dear.
Right, yeah. Because it is like a heavy topic, Christianity. Like, whoa, like, I thought people would be like, ugh, gross. That's how I was when I was in high school. So, but instead he was like, oh yeah, you should put this out into the world. And I'm like, oh.
It's really nice to have a support system, no matter how big or small it is, for sure.
Right, yeah.
And
yes. Oh no, go ahead.
I think that, kind of the part of the definition of an artist is also a noun bundle of self-doubt that needs to be like put in a corner and shut up.
Right.
So we were just talking about your work with Lindsay's a Christian now, and you have a very specific art style. You actually chose it to be in black, white, and gray. What was the decision making behind that?
So I draw a lot of just comics online that are just black and gray, and it might just be out of laziness. I just did. So that's the big feat, to completely color something. But also, I thought it might take away from like the more serious tone of it. Because when I draw with color, it's like fun. Like it's something I want to have fun with. But so when things are like more serious or something, I usually choose to not distract anybody with the colors. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like black and white photography, you know, it certainly brings a different element to a portrait or a landscape that color could certainly not confuse, but yeah, like kind of distract with how different people interpret different colors versus something that's just here focusing more on, you know, the shapes and the relationship of what you're drawing to one another without that distraction, for sure.
And, you know, with this, though, even though you're mentioning bringing out the seriousness, you do have comedic moments in here. Whether you express them visually or you express them through what a character is saying, you know, you're telling this whole story of what you went through. Now, out of this, though, how would you describe your comedy style, your kind of sense of humor that you've infused into these pieces?
It's very dry. Like I have a very dry sense of humor, or just like deadpan. Like sometimes people don't understand that I'm telling a joke. And that's funny to me, but may not be just some. Yeah, sort of. I don't know how to describe it. I really like Portlandia, if you've ever watched that.
Okay, yeah.
That is me. That's my humor. It's like dumb observances that you make about the world, and like not to like crap on the world, it's just like funny things that you notice.
Well, in a way, you know, bringing out honesty sometimes is the best humor. It's funny because we can relate to it. It's so real, and we've probably said that to ourselves, but maybe never had the guts to say it out loud, or never really found the reason to say it out loud. So for someone to express it all of a sudden, we get that connection and that moment of laughter. I can totally see that. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's a scene that I particularly liked that totally resonated with me, and that's when you as a fourth grader are hanging out around first graders and feel like this giant among them. And I remember when I was younger, I had a growth spurt. You couldn't tell it now because I'm kind of short, but back then I did, and I just remember feeling like, wow, I'm so tall. It was probably just a few inches here or there, but I definitely had that feeling of these people are not only younger than me, but also shorter. So for those of you, for those people that are unfamiliar with the process, what would you say to them that, you know, what are the similarities and the differences between drawing a single kind of individual, artwork versus working on multiple different comic panels to tell a story?
Let's see. Well, I guess like when you're making just one art piece, you can just make it be, you can be so precious with it because it's one thing. Like, whereas like comic panels, they can be sloppier, a message, just in a, I guess sloppy, not sloppy. I don't know if that's the right word. You can be a lot looser with comic panels, and like more, you can add more movement and things like that. Does that elaborate more on it? I don't know.
So, I mean, basically what you're saying is that with a singular art piece, because you probably have the time to actually sit there and really break it down and analyze it, you could put in more things like more details, more intricate elements and larger elements, and it all works out. You probably have more space too, right? Whereas with
exactly, yeah,
comic panels, it's much simpler.
Yeah, that's why in my graphic novel, all the backgrounds are just very minimalist. Just like a chair or window, like whatever. Because it's not, you don't need all that information. You just need like information in each panel.
Yeah, basically you're setting the scene, so that way we have a general concept of, okay, this is in a classroom, this is outdoors, but really the importance is what's being said or how someone's reacting to an action of some sort.
Right, because you're reading it so quickly. Like comic books, reading the words and then the images kind of get into your mind as you're going across, but you're not like looking at the image. Like a piece of art, you're just looking at that image. Like there might not be words on it. You're just looking at that. That's it.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're basically letting the viewer or the reader let their imagination, basically what you're setting as a groundwork for their imagination. It's like, here's the basics, you'll fill it in.
And I actually really like that even though you have a more of a minimalistic piece, the flavor of your details was amazing. Like when you described the Bible with the pattern that the pattern that was on the side when it was closed, I instantly got an idea. I'm like, yes, I have seen this out in the world. So like it's really nice that even with a minimalistic approach, the details definitely stood out as very unique and very salient to the piece. So that's really nice.
Thanks.
And we were checking out your work on Amazon, and you have a ton of 5 stars and some awesome reviews, people getting in actually really in depth with the story and being like, oh, I love it, I could really connect with it, or totally understood where she was coming from, or like, I think there was even someone that mentioned like they're not really religious, but they really connected on a certain level to the work and what you had to say, and just really appreciate the fact that you shared your story the way you did. And that was very entertaining. So, I'm curious though, it's always hard for artists, storytellers, anyone within the creative fields to build up awareness in the first place, right? To get those initial people to be like, hey, I really liked your work, or hey, I really didn't, but I can appreciate it, or something like that. So out of curiosity, what are some things that you feel could help people build up awareness, or at least what are some things that maybe you've done that you feel like, yeah, this actually kind of helped to get people to know, hey, I'm here, I exist, and my art exists as well?
It's a lot of it is like showing your friends first, and then your friends tell their friends, and then they'll tell their friends. Social media marketing, pretty much. Posting your own art onto things, people start to notice. Like a lot of people, you'll gain interest as you continue to post art. Like it doesn't have to be every day. I didn't post every day, or I don't post every day, but I try to post a couple times, like a month, whatever. And then you get noticed for whatever it is that you're doing. Like if you're drawing, I don't know, comedy stuff like I do, people might think it's funny if you're lucky. and then they'll share it. Or what else? Oh, for my thing, my book in particular, I did a Kickstarter campaign, which was really cool. And then before that, I had done an art show and I sold some art, so I got people to notice me in that way too. The word marketing, it's just such a boring word, but that's what it is. Like getting yourself out there like that.
No, absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. And what's great too is that you are in a visual medium, which just can be so much easier in a way. We are so naturally drawn to images and videos on social media, and a lot of the social media platforms are giving a boost naturally to posts that include that, and they tend to get a lot more engagement. And I think what's great, especially about what you do, is the fact that you're trying to make people laugh and trying to make people relate, and that seems to be some of the most engaging stuff to us online, right? We want to see something in a different way, in a different perspective, but that we can still relate to. And I think that's something that's so cool about graphic novelists and comic book writers and what they have at their disposal, because they have so much great content that they can share out there and hopefully get people to connect on some sort of level.
Yeah, people want to be able to relate to things, you know. That's what I've been finding.
Yeah, and for better or for worse, right, technology is impacting everything that we do, especially on the creative side. Lindsay, are there any apps or software tools that you would recommend to someone interested in going into graphic novels and comic books specifically that you found helpful?
So I just got, like, not even a year ago, I just got an iPad for the first time. My first iPad.
Hey.
And there's a really cool app called Procreate. And it's just like, you can just do everything with it, like art on the go. Like if you've got a comic idea, draw it. I mean, I guess you could do that with a sketch pad too, but this one, you can like just send it straight to your phone. If you want to post it on, send it straight to your computer, like via AirDrop or whatever. It's really helpful. Like I honestly draw a lot more with it, because what I would do before was I would have an idea, I would sketch it out on my sketch pad in pencil, and then I would have to like either, you know, scan it or take a photo of it and upload it onto my computer, and then go into Photoshop, and then get me like huge Wacom tablet out, next to my computer. It's just really, it's ease of access, really. So yeah, but not that if you don't have the money for an iPad right now, it'd be pricey. But so I do recommend like getting yourself a nice little like Wacom tablet. They have like smaller ones that are like $90. And then just doing the Photoshop. I use Photoshop all the time still for like graphic design projects and things like that. So.
Nice. And an iPad, definitely way less smudgier than a sketch pad.
Yeah, I'm left-handed too, so it helps.
Oh, there you go. That'll do.
Everything. Yeah.
Well, and Wacom tablets are awesome. I know we use it as well for graphic design and things like that. And it's amazing what you can do with those, and the amount of like just fine details you can now do with those tablets is just amazing. And what you can control on your computer and everything else. And yeah, it's an awesome tool for sure. You know, we mentioned about kind of what you suggest for technology and how to share your voice, get seen, get heard. But on top of that, are there strategies that you see? You don't have to mention specific people on this at all. But are there strategies that you've seen other creators try to do to promote their work that you go, no, that I don't think that's a good idea. Like that's more like shooting yourself in the foot. Anything that seems to stand out that you see commonly, whether it's on social media or at events?
Ooh, that's interesting. You know what? I don't know. Maybe sometimes people will post like shocking art for the sake of posting shocking art. And maybe that's not really the genre that they normally draw. I don't know.
That's fair.
And yeah, that'll get them a bunch of attention for that one post. And then they think that traffic has come to them because of that. And then, but you're just getting people interested in your shocking art. And then, I don't know. If you're not going to draw that more, then nobody's going to want to be there for it. I'm not sure.
That's true. Oh yeah, I can definitely see that, because I know we've seen it with YouTube videos and even films where you see certain scenes and you go, what was the purpose of that? Besides to like make you cringe, there was no like story there.
Mm-hmm. And like if that's what you do all the time, that's awesome. But like if you're like, if it was like me, it would be a little shocking art. It would like, sure, it'd get me a lot of attention, but I don't know. Oh, I guess the thing is like over hashtagging.
Oh yeah.
Like even hashtagging something that's not even in your art piece.
Oh, like a trendy hashtag of the day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Comic-Con, and you just put hashtag Con 2019 on your random art piece just so you can get traffic. That's a little bit much.
Yeah, people are getting to the point of hashtagging their hashtags. It gets pretty serious.
Yeah. It's so serious.
Where do you overall, whether for good or for bad, do you see the future of comics and graphic novels going? Like, what are some of the trends that you tend to be seeing a lot of now?
Oh man. I like holding on. I like the tangibility of actioned comics still. And I know we're moving towards web comics. So I'm not really sure. It's kind of like the Wild West. Like, I'm not really sure what's gonna the future. I haven't noticed any trends either. Like, I don't know, maybe it'll be like a separation. Like, you either do web comics and that's your thing, or you're printing comics out still so people can buy them, which I enjoy that.
Oh yeah, that's like with me. I used to love music, for instance, and I used to love going to the CD store, whatever, it was a local record shop, or to even Best Buy or something like that. And it was so awesome because you got to like tangibly see the album and the artwork and go through and see like who worked on the different songs and who produced it and all this other stuff. And they put so much effort into it. It became a full experience. And then it all went digital and I was just like, oh, so wait, what do I do? Like,
yeah, right. That's kind of how it is now.
It's so sad in a way because there's so much like cool stuff that happens. And I mean, even with CDs, for example, there was so much artwork. It wasn't even just photography, but like hand-drawn artwork still that you just won't see anymore.
Yeah. Someone worked really hard on that album art, and now like, what? It's on your phone, and you just
it's a tiny thumbnail on your Spotify account.
That's such a nice thumbnail. I really like that line. I think there's a little bit of red in that picture. That's great.
Is that your thumbnail? That is a nice thumbnail.
That's
You know what you're referencing? Shrek.
I will say that web comics are what got me into what I refer to as real comics, quote unquote. Like the hard copies, because I always thought comic books and graphic novels were for people who were both cooler than me and nerdier than me at the same time. And I felt this sort of self-imposed wall, I think, really what it was, where I was like, oh, I can't get into that because that's like too esoteric for me right now. And then I started reading webcomics, and I got hungry for like the stories that people were telling with the visuals or you know with the dialogue essentially. And now I love comics. Like, I love looking at them, I love touching them, I love just like being immersed into that story. And I love reading too, and so that kind of helps. I love films and I love reading, and comic books and graphic novels really mesh kind of those two mediums together for me.
Yeah, and like web comics are cool if you're just starting to get into comics, because you don't have, like, you're just on your phone. Nobody has to know what you're doing. You don't have to answer to anybody. Like, nobody's gonna be like, what you reading? Like, nobody. But like, if you have a comic and you're like sitting on the train or something, could be like, oh, which Batman is that or whatever. Like, you get that, and now you have to talk to somebody. Like, talk about your new comic obsession. If you're not like super confident about it and you're just getting into it.
I'm just there on my phone reading something shocking. Oh, Lindsay's a dark Sith Lord now. Oh, okay. Well, let me read that one.
It is true though. There is this kind of fervent following for very specific storylines, and it can be very difficult to jump into it, especially when a storyline has been around for 30, 40 years, and so people have had years of content, and you're just jumping in, and they're like, oh, well, you know, you don't know about this and you don't know about that. And it's like, not really yet, not yet, no.
Yeah, I never got into the superhero comics for that reason. So I mainly stick with like autobiographical graphic novels, which is exactly what I wrote.
That's cool. What would you say would be like some of your favorites, out of curiosity? Because I've never actually truly heard of the description autobiographical graphic novels. That's actually really pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. But, so I think, my favorite author, illustrator, graphic novelist right now is Lindsay. She draws a lot of things. She makes like travelogues that are really cool. And then she's got a book that I just recently bought and read called Relish, and it's about her experience with food. Like it's just, and like her drawings of food are just great. Like they express a lot about feels about that particular food and like growing up, and so she just her entire relationship with food. I really enjoy Fun Home, or just in Bechtel in general. You know Fun Home, that maybe you don't. They've got a musical about it now. It's about her growing up in a funeral home and like her later finding. I don't want to give out any spoilers.
Spoilers, everyone, spoilers. Go read it. It's really good.
But it has a lot to do with like she and her father like both finding out about their own sexualities, and then she has another one called Are You My Mother, and that's a sequel to that, and that's also really good, and like her drawing style a lot, and the way that she tells a story. I'm like looking at my bookshelf right now. I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, and then there's Blankets, which is by Craig Thompson, and it's huge. It's very intimidating to look at, but it's also about him, like it's like the opposite of mine. It's about him like losing his faith through like going to church camp and like that. But it's just really good, and like the illustrations are just like you feel like you're there. It's awesome.
Well, the two of you guys could do like a joint marketing effort, either on the way in or the way out. Pick your side. So besides creating comics, you also work for Disney. How do you take on the work, creative, personal life balance, if there is such a thing?
Pretty difficult, I'm finding, because I've only been working at Disney for a year. So working on my cartoon pitch, and so it's really difficult to like work all day and then come home and work on that. But I would, like, you just gotta schedule time for your projects. And then I'd work like on the weekends. You know, if you just do something bit by bit, it will get finished. Like, it doesn't matter how much you do of it. If you dedicate like, I don't know, an hour to doing something very small, you're still getting something done, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And any kind of forward movement is forward movement.
Exactly, yeah.
We all know the story. I mean, the turtle wins at the end, right? That's
Right. So steady.
Do you have any sort of major goals set up for yourself? Because I know, like you said, you're just trying to do that work-life balance, and you're trying to just slowly progress and get your next work up and out. But what are some of your main goals around that? Or do you have any other kind of future goals for your work? And if so, kind of, if you could describe, if you don't mind, like, how are you working towards them? Or what is your, at least, ideals for working towards them?
So currently, like I said, I'm working on a cartoon pitch. Get that pitched, and in my wildest dreams, get it picked up as a show, you know. So to work towards that, I've actually just finished like the entire pitch Bible packet thing. Now it's basically about networking, trying to like talk to people in my workplace, which is what I've been doing. That's honestly it. I don't know. That's like what I'm thinking about like all the time right now. So.
No, that makes a lot of sense. It's something that you're passionate about, and something that you really want. So that's going to be your main focus is getting all that piece together and get it out there into people's hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I guess if that doesn't get picked up, I mean, there's like a 1 in a million chance that it will. But so in the event that it doesn't get picked up, I'll probably a few other ideas to pitch. But I really like my current idea, so I'd like extend to like a graphic novel. I think that'd be a lot of fun to do, like episodically graphic novels, you know.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be really cool. Well, hey, thank you, Lindsay, for, again, sharing your journey, sharing your wisdom, and your work, and your whole entire process of said work to all of our viewers and listeners today. And if you could, please tell our audience where they can find you and your work online. And we'll also make sure to list all of the work down below. All the different links will be in the description of the video and the podcast.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. So you guys can find me on Instagram at wins_. No, wait, hold on. Sorry, I'm messing this up because I think my Twitter has an underscore and my Instagram does not. Let me see. I'm like actually looking at my phone. So my Instagram is WinzWeras. It's WINZWERAS. And then my Twitter is Wins_Weras. And the reason for that, I know it's kind of silly, is because my friend's kid, when he was like 4, couldn't pronounce L at all. He just pronounced it as a W. And so he called me Wins. Linz, you know. So then I just made that my Twitter and Instagram handles.
I like it. It's excuse me. It's very positive too. Wins.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much for chatting with us. We really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And thank you for joining us today and everyone out there for MindMineTV's Creator Series.
And for those of you watching on YouTube, Twitch, or listening in on iTunes or Podbean, thanks for tuning in to another episode, and our comments are open for further discussion. So feel free to dig in, ask any questions you may have for Lindsay. She may answer you, never know. And don't forget to follow, share, subscribe, get notified when more episodes go live. And for more information on the Creator Series and our channel, come on over to mindminepod.com. And this is Evin and Tatiana. We're MindMineTV. See you next time.